All right, and with us we have Terry White from United Space Alliance, the lead thermal protection person for all of the orbiters, fresh from giving President Obama a tour as well.
Oh, yes.
Yes, I was selected to tour the White House guests, President Obama and his family, around the orbiter processing facility and explain to them the thermal protection system and how it protects the orbiter.
Now, you give the tours to almost everybody. When I worked there, I sent all the tours to Terry because, let's just say, he's a very rambunctious personality. He's very excited about the shuttle and really loves to show it off. So you know what? Good tour guide. How'd the president's kid like the shuttle?
Actually, they were very impressed. I got quite a few wows out of the president and his family. So they were impressed. They got to handle the tiles just like all guests. They were extremely impressed about how lightweight the tiles were. His first comment when he walked in and met me was, "Hey, that's a great mustache." And then his going away comment was he did thank all the people at Kennedy Space Center, especially those that work on the orbiter's thermal protection system, about keeping our astronauts cool.
Well, that's very nice. Now, by the way, the daughters touched the tire. Now, that's not normal. That's
correct.
What were you thinking? Were you thinking, can I tell them? Wait, can I?
What I was thinking is how everybody's going to say, "You let them touch the vehicle?"
Luckily, though, tires, very unlikely to do anything.
Terry, it's Miles. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Did you let them touch your mustache?
No, sir.
Because that could be a problem, right?
Yes, sir.
Who knows? You know, that could violate some sort of flight constraint. But hey, just quickly, we want to talk about the history thing, but can you bring us up to date? Do you know anything about the repair on the hatch, or was it pretty much a standard thing that they just had to deal with the tile damage around the hatch just a little while ago?
Yes, as these vehicles get older and older, the tile coating on them gets more fragile, and we expect when we remove the last of the tape out there holding around the armalon that protects the hatch thermal barrier when it's being closed, we expect some minor chips. We had that last time we closed the hatch on Endeavour, and so it's standard, and the closeout crew does know how to touch up those minor damages.
Well, good. Another success for the team and for the thermal protection system. You know, I want to ask you a big picture question, because the thermal protection system on the shuttle is, on the one hand, perhaps its single greatest advancement over what led to it before, as far as Apollo goes, the whole ability to have a reusable system for protecting what amounts to an aluminum vehicle, which would, obviously would melt on re-entry. It also turned out to be the most labor-intensive component of the shuttle, and ultimately added to the cost of the program. I guess the question is, did the thermal protection system technology, did it turn out to be somewhat of a dead end? I mean, because I don't see necessarily in the next generation of vehicles the requirement to have this kind of capability.
Well, actually, we are. Some of the new capsules being designed have the tile on not the lower surface, the ablative surface that's going to see the extreme heat, but on the upper surfaces of the vehicle, still, it is a very lightweight and it is an excellent insulation to use over and over again.
Well, there's nothing quite like getting a tour of that facility, and they've got one of those things in the oven, and it's just glowing red hot, and they pop it out of the oven and they put it in your hand, and you want to flinch, but it's cool already. It's just it's an extraordinary thing.
Yes, that's what amazes people when they can see one of these, what we call a coupon, and this is just the tile material with no coating on it, but it can come out of a 2200 degree oven and be sitting there glowing red, and you can reach down with your bare hand and pick it up, holding it by the corners. The rest of it will still be glowing red, and it's not heating your fingers at all.
Now, the one other thing is, without that coating, it can really absorb a lot of water.
Yes, it can, and that's what amazes people is tile material are 94% air, and the original designers have us waterproof them before we put them on the ship. We thought that was good for the 100 flights that a tile is designed for. It turns out the heat of re-entry is baking the waterproofing out of the tile, and people are really amazed when they see how much a tile readily likes water.
Hang on, he's squirting a whole bottle of water here on it. Look at that.
Terry, were you at the on the Cape working on the shuttle program back in the before STS-1?
Yes, sir. I started here before we had orbiters. I worked on original build of Columbia and Challenger, but I processed everything since STS-1.
Well, you know, our audience, it might be worth reminding our audience of the initial problems, just keeping those tiles affixed to the skin of the shuttle. Remind us of the problems you went through. That one of the significant reasons for the delays in launching STS-1 Columbia was the fact that you were having a hard time keeping those tiles on, right?
Yes, sir. Each tile physically gets glued to the back of the ship. It gets a special pad, gets glued to the back of the tile. Well, prior to STS-1, when Columbia first arrived at Kennedy Space Center, we had not hardened the bottom of the tile, but we had glued the pad on and glued thousands of tiles onto the outside of the orbiter. And it turns out we discovered, and we did lose a few in ferry flight coming from California, that pad, called a strain isolator pad, would not adhere when you got the corner. It would peel right off of the tile. So we ultimately had to take all of the tile back off of Columbia and harden the bottom, and this one you can see is gray on the bottom, which means we have hardened it, a process called densification. Now when we glue that special pad on the back, it will not come off. To remove the one off of this tile, we actually had to use a razor knife and skive that off.
Yeah, so and the process of gluing them on is quite a laborious thing. You use a process called room temperature vulcanizing, as I recall.
Correct.
And the way it's clamped and glued is very specific. Why don't you walk us through that just briefly?
Okay, basically we get take a tile off of the orbiter and we get the new tile to put on. We have to go through multiple fit checks. It's really critical that the bottom of that tile exactly match the skin of the orbiter. So we fit it multiple times, making sure it's gaps to the adjacent tile, its flushness from one tile to the other are precise. And then when we actually get ready to glue it on, we only put 8/1000ths of an inch thick layer of glue onto the aluminum skin, glue the tile in place, and we leave it under pressure for a minimum of 8 hours, plus the glue has to reach a certain hardness. Then once we're done, we attempt to pull the tile back off, and a standard tile we pull to about 250 pounds just to ensure it's going to stay on the vehicle.
Well, and multiply that times, you know, the inspection on, give or take 20,000 tiles each vehicle, and you have an idea of why the shuttle was never able to deliver airliner-like turnaround. It was just too much to keep track of, right?
Yes, the thermal protection system is just one of the systems that we found out was a lot more labor-intensive than the original designers had planned. You know, the main engines are another one. We remove the main engines at least once after every flight. Original designers planned on keeping them on for 25 flights. So there's a lot of other things in there that we constantly took apart, tested, put back together. We do park the orbiters in a very hazardous environment, sitting right here on the coast when they're out of the pad. So we constantly take tiles off just to inspect the structure underneath to look for any corrosion issues because of the harsh environment.
Now, I think one of the earliest bits of labor you've talked about before that's not done now was the waterproofing. It was not done through the injection, but you said guys with Scotch Guard spraying the bottom.
Yes, literally at the end of the night after our regular work, we would bring in pallet loads of aerosol cans of Scotch Guard, and we would literally go and put on 1-inch strips across the tile, painting layers of Scotch Guard on and paint the gaps all the way around with the Scotch Guard to re-waterproof the tile. Because basically being 94% air, when they get rained on at the pad, they can pick up a lot of weight.
Wow. Interesting.
Wow, that's amazing.
That is amazing.
And then you go home
Terry,
and spray your furniture.
Yes.
Hey Terry, I assume you Scotch Guard at home, but hey Terry, tell me, you know, you're like many guys there, the full sweep of the program under your belt. Your career really mirrors the shuttle program. You're set to retire. It's set to retire. I assume you're quite proud and gratified on your accomplishment, but it is a sad day, isn't it?
It's, yeah, myself and everyone else that gets to work out here is extremely proud of what we get to do. And we think that this orbiter and this shuttle is one of the most complicated machines man has ever built. We consider it the 8th wonder of the world, and we're not too sure about the other 7, but we know this one's right up there.
I'm with you on that one, Terry.
No. Your mustache is the 8th wonder of the world.
Oh.
The shuttle is number 9, I think. But no, it's. Are you sad at the way it is ending? Do you wish that I mean, clearly, anybody you talk to in the program would say, "Hey, this thing can fly a lot longer." There's no question. There's no technical constraint. It's like the old proverbial question: How does an airplane stay in the air? with money. So, and how does the shuttle stay in the air? Same reason. So it could fly on for quite some time, couldn't it?
Yes, sir. And right now it is the safest vehicle we have on this world to take our astronauts and our cargo up the International Space Station. And we have to learn a lot more before we go to another body, either back to the moon or onto Mars. And we need to learn that from the International Space Station. But yes, this vehicle was designed for 100 flights. I know it wasn't designed to fly this many years, but with the right inspections and continuing to keep it safe, we can continue to fly this vehicle for more flights.
Well, we do have to quibble with you a little bit, Terry. When you say it's the safest vehicle, it's not the safest way to go to space. It doesn't have crew escape. We know that, and that's an important thing that we need to take.
I was referring to the orbiter as safe as it's ever been.
Yeah,
we've done a lot of modifications. One of which is the what David was referencing earlier. What's called the brie tile. This tile is easily damaged. It chipped the corner right off of it. The new brie tile that we've been putting on for the last several years is so strong you can literally walk on it. You can hit it with a hard object and it doesn't damage it.
I remember this lesson, Terry. You made me hit it.
Tell me about this guy who was selling tiles on eBay. What's that all about?
Apparently we had a technician years ago when he was employed out here, took some of the scrap tile home with him, and then he sold them on eBay, or attempted to sell them.
Oh boy.
But is that illegal?
Yes, sir, it is. They are still government property. NASA owns the tiles. We as employees out here just process them and put them on the orbiter as required. So
if you're on eBay and you see a tile for sale, don't buy it.
Correct. There are some Russian tiles that are for sale out there. There were a few that were originally sold. They were originally a Lockheed product, and one of the engineers from Lockheed had tiles and he was legally able to sell. But about everything you see on there now is probably not a legal tile.
All right, but as I understand it, they descended upon this poor guy's house with the SWAT team because he was selling a few tiles. I mean, gosh.
And I don't think that was the only reason, but they came down with the SWAT team. But yes, sir.
I think he had a little gun collection.
I was going to say, was he an enthusiast of certain collections?
Yeah, they should have gone in protected by brie tile.
Yes.
There you go.
Really?
So
Not sure it's going to stop that.
Point. I mean, that's facetious, but for years and years there was talk about, here we have this amazing technology. You put it in the 2200 degree oven, you take it out, you can hold it. We've never really found a commercial application for it, have we?
Not for the tile, no, sir.
It's a shame because it's so cool, but you would think it would do something good in the commercial world, right?
But we do have some of the orbiter's components are. This is a material that we call Frizzy, that stands for Felt Reusable Surface Insulation. It's a Nomex felt. This is for the really low temperature areas, like on top of the wings, top of the payload bay doors. This is the actual thickness on the payload bay door. And the very top of the crew module, this is for areas that see less than 700 degrees. Now this has a lot of civilian applications. Many years ago when I flew in the military, we converted over to Nomex flight suits. Millions of firefighters around the world, their suits are made out of the Nomex. So it has a lot of other applications besides what we do with it here on the orbiter.
Terry, what's your favorite shuttle memory? Of all, you've processed practically every darn launch there. What are your memories that you take away?
Well, it's more than one. Every time we get the orbiters complete and ready to roll out, and basically the majority of our work is done, it's a great satisfaction to the people that work in the orbiter processing facility. And then the thermal protection guys, a select few of them get to follow it onto the vertical assembly building to the pad. But the most memorable thing is when it lifts off the pad. It's just an exciting thing to see that all of the hard work you did for the last several months on that orbiter all came about, and that it lifted off, and then when it lands 10 or 12 days later, and all of your work went into protecting the vehicle and the crew and bringing them home safe.
Yeah, it seems to me that people don't have a full appreciation for what that accomplishment represents. When 2 billion moving parts move off that launch pad and are going 17,500 miles an hour 8 minutes later, that's an extraordinary thing.
Yeah, and that's what people really don't understand. A lot of people, when they get, like you said, when you get to come to the OPF and tour and get up close and personal with the orbiter, then they really start to understand a little bit more what an amazing vehicle it is, and they just can't believe the things that go in to make this vehicle fly.
Oh, by the way, I do stand corrected, as Terry told me earlier. Remember I was telling you put that flag in the back of Endeavour?
Yep.
They took it out.
No.
Was it that bad? Did I do that badly?
No, sir. No, they just get, after so many flights, we take them out. They get a few frays on them, so we take them out and put them on display, and then we put a new flag
one in there.
He's the one that foolishly let me attach the button, so that's why I asked him. So, well, I'll have to go see its display place.
Yeah, when David came over, he says, "You're going to actually let me go in the orbiter and work?" And I said, "Yes, you'll be closely monitored by a technician."
Oh,
But yes,
Miles, he had no idea.
Terry, you have
join
no
the
idea
union?
what risks you took.
Well, that's the same thing that the center directors. I brought center directors over for years and brought them inside the orbiter and actually let them work.
Of course, I am the guy who left stuff in the aft section of Discovery, so I really am in a glass house when it comes to this.
Yeah, Terry was the one who told me about that. So small world.
That's part of shuttle legend. Me crawling around the aft and leaving behind a couple of tape cassettes.
Oh my goodness.
Anyway,
Well, Terry, don't leave this around, or he might walk off with it. Actually, no, he's nowhere near today. I guess, Miles, by the way, you can't take any of these home with you, sadly, because you're 60 miles away. So sad. Well, thanks, by the way, for bringing them by, Terry.
Okay.
Appreciate having all these, and
thanks,
always
Terry.
having you
Good
come
seeing
by.
you.
Sure.